Have you ever seen those old gags where someone bites into an apple and finds a worm? Now imagine biting into an apple and finding shit. Today I'm talking about something that haunts me to my core. A show so bad it made me wish I'd been born both blind and deaf. Today I'm talking about The 7 Deadly Sins. This show goes down in my book as one of the biggest, most self-destructive collapses in quality I've ever seen. What started with so much promise fell apart with such velocity that I couldn't comprehend what I was watching. But before I get too emotional, let's go back to the beginning and use our critical minds to figure out exactly what went wrong. The 7 Deadly Sins anime premiered in 2014 based on the manga of the same name by Nakaba Suzuki. While it aired in North America on Netflix and fits right in with the rest of the slop that company churns out, the series was not created by Netflix, only distributed by them. So no, we can't blame this abomination on Netflix. This time. The real culprits behind this disaster are two studios, A1 Pictures and Studio Dean. The series went on to have 4 seasons, each one somehow worse than the last, finally wrapping up in 2021, ending my suffering. Until it came back, baby! Side note, I haven't watched the sequel to 7 Deadly Sins. The ending of the anime was so unbelievably bad and cringe that after years of enduring this garbage, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So, disregarding the sequel show, the production of 7 Deadly Sins is almost as much of a clusterfuck as the show itself, and that's where I'd like to begin. The production of the first season of 7 Deadly Sins started exactly the way the story itself does, full of promise. There was heart, charm, passion. You could genuinely feel that the people behind it cared. The animation was shockingly solid for the time. The fight scenes were fluid and exciting, and when it first aired, I remember thinking, damn, this show can actually compete with the big boys. And then, everything fell apart. The real problems began around season 3, when production switched from A1 Pictures to Studio Dean. Now, switching studios is never easy. Different art teams, different budgets, different workflows, there's always going to be changes. But what happened here wasn't just a change. It wasn't just a downgrade. It was a total, catastrophic collapse. Studio Dean was completely unprepared for the workload, so they outsourced huge portions of the animation to smaller teams. Combine that with a brutal crunch time and the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic, and yeah, this series was basically doomed from the start season 3 entered production. Nothing was ever the same after season 2, and in the wreckage that followed, anime history was made. Some of the worst animation the industry has ever seen. Now, we can't blame everything on the animation studios. At the end of the day, the anime is based on the manga. They didn't write the story. They just have to adapt what they're given. So in terms of plot, they're off the hook. But the animation. Oh boy! This is where the roller coaster shoots off the tracks, explodes, and crashes into a daycare. We are in for a ride. Like I said, season 1 came out swinging. The animation was clean, expressive, energetic. It had personality. It was the kind of debut that made people in the anime community stop, turn their heads, and go, hold on, is this show actually kind of good? And then the studio change happened, and we entered the Dark Ages. Think about the worst animation problems you've ever seen, like the stuff that makes you physically recoil, the stuff that lives rent-free in Twitter memes. Chances are, 7 Deadly Sins had all of them, and then some. Stupid faces? Check. Horrible choppy PowerPoint level fight scenes? Check. Character designs so unrecognizable they might as well be bootlegs? Double check. This wasn't just a downgrade. This was early Dragon Ball Super levels of what the fuck am I looking at? And it absolutely killed the show's momentum. It'd be one thing if the anime always looked like this. If it started ugly, we would have accepted it as how it is. But no. We were spoiled by the first 2 seasons. We were raised on high-quality fights and clean visuals, only to watch everything collapse into a slideshow of embarrassing still frames and goofy melted faces. It was completely unacceptable. And honestly, I don't blame people for being mad. The fall off was so severe, it felt like whiplash. So the animation's bad. But the fan service? That was the real turn this shit off moment. One review I saw of Seven Deadly Sins praised the show for having minimal fan service. Minimal fan service. Minimal fan.
What kind of crap were they smoking?
Seven Deadly Sins should not be watched within 100 meters of a school zone. The amount of weird angles, questionable outfits, height fetish, and straight up put the creator on a watch list immediately moments is unhinged. Let's start with the main character, Meliodas. Dude looks like a 14-year-old boy, is actually a 1,000-year-old demon, and also a massive pervert. Throughout the show, he's constantly sticking his face where it does not belong, trying to sneak peeks at Elizabeth, and my personal favorite, being revealed later to be a repeat groomer because Elizabeth keeps getting reincarnated and he follows her around every single time, watching her grow up and then continues to be a creep. And it's all played off like some cute, goofy gag. I'm sorry. This isn't funny. Not even kinda. It made me super uncomfortable. I would never want to watch this show in front of another human being, and it's bad to the point where if someone tells me that their favorite anime is Seven Deadly Sins, I'm gonna judge them. Then there's Diane. She's a member of the Seven Deadly Sins, a giant, and most notably one breeze away from turning this show 18+. They dress her in the tiniest, tightest clothing imaginable, despite her being like 30 feet tall. And that's a whole other problem on its own, because her height is fetishized constantly. If you think regular anime characters get weird low angles, multiply that by 100, and you're still not close to how often the camera is staring straight up at Diane, like it's trying to get itself arrested. And then we have her relationship with King. Look, I'm sorry. I cannot defend this. She's 30 feet tall. He looks like a preteen. Every time they're on screen together, I feel like I need to notify the authorities. It doesn't look cute. It doesn't look romantic. It looks like something that should have been blocked by every parental control filter known to mankind. And I've saved the worst for last. Anyone who's watched this show knows what's coming next. You all knew. I couldn't forget. Lady Elaine. Lady Elaine shows up near the end of season 1. She's a 1,000-year-old fairy and Bond's love interest. She also has the appearance of a 6-year-old.
But hear me out, she's 1,000 years old.
Hell no, I'm not hearing nobody out.
You can pull out any excuse in the anime handbook. But she's ancient. But fairies age differently. But it's just the character design. Stop. Just stop, please. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, you could possibly say to me that would make this even remotely okay. Every time these two share a scene, I can feel my FBI agent behind his screen getting ready to lock me up and throw away the key. It's uncomfortable, it's gross, and the fact it's treated as this cute, soft, romantic subplot is absolutely insane to me. And honestly, that's the real problem here. It's not just the fan service, it's the fact that this show is too busy being weird, creepy, and uncomfortable that it forgets to actually write its characters. Because after all that, we're only scratching the surface here. Seven Deadly Sins doesn't just have bad fan service. It has way too many characters it clearly doesn't give a damn about. Let's start things off with everyone's favorite character, Veronica. You know, Veronica. Come on, guys, keep up. It's
Veronica.
That's right. Elizabeth had a sister. Remember her? Yeah, neither did I until I started writing this script. She was introduced with this huge dramatic setup, treated like she was about to change the entire direction of the story, then immediately killed off. Then brought back. Only to become about as important as a background tree in a children's play. Like seriously, she shows up, delivers maybe 2 lines, and then the show treats her like she's part of the scenery. You could replace her with a cardboard cutout and not a single scene would change. and the show is absolutely full of characters like this. All the very side characters? Couldn't name a single one if my life depended on it. Jericho? Started off cool, then instantly devolved into I Love Bon and never returned. Half the Goddess Clan? Just a collection of random glowing people who show up, stand around, and then vanished. And don't even get me started on the Ten Commandments. Half of these supposedly super intimidating villains have zero personality, zero development, and zero relevance. We know nothing about them. They show up, get hyped to the moon, and then disappear like the writers forgot to finish their character sheets. So we've talked about a lot here. The fan service, the cringe, the terrible animation. At this point, Seven Deadly Sins is basically a checklist of everything an anime shouldn't do. But with the end of the video approaching, I guess the last thing I'd like to talk about is, well, the end. Because if you thought this show was bad before, if you thought the weird writing choices and the dollar store animation were the worst it had to offer, oh no. The ending is where the show looks you dead in the eyes, shrugs, and says, yeah, we gave up. What are you going to do about it? Everything I've talked about up until now, on its own, would be enough to kill any show. But now we're stepping into one of the worst endings I've ever seen in any piece of media ever. The final season, Dragon's Judgment, dropped in 2021, also known as the year I lost all hope for humanity after witnessing this disaster. It starts with the reveal that to break Elizabeth's curse, Meliodas has to absorb the Ten Commandments and become the new Demon King, which basically means he loses all emotion and turns into a walking nuke, with abs, for some reason. Bon then heads into Purgatory to rescue Meliodas' emotions, which should have been an insane hype moment. But the pacing is so rushed it might as well have been a montage. Then, we get the final battle with Meliodas, in a PowerPoint presentation. But wait, plot twist. Okay, this isn't actually the final fight anymore, because the Demon King decides to possess Zeldris. So now, we get a second, completely unnecessary Demon King fight. Like, why? Who asked for this? What purpose does this serve besides wasting more time? Anyways, finally, they beat the Demon King and break Elizabeth's curse. This should have been emotional as hell. The entire story has been building to this, and it lands with the impact of a wet sock hitting a sidewalk. The sins split up, the journey ends, and the story wraps up nicely.
Just kidding.
Merlin suddenly drops a microscopic little tiny detail that has never been mentioned once in the entire show. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a primordial god named Chaos. I've been secretly manipulating it for centuries, and I'm going to awaken it using Arthur.
What the fuck?
What is this? It completely comes out of nowhere. No build-up, no foreshadowing, no suspense. Just as we beat the big bad, the show hits us with, surprise, Arthur is now a reality-warping god. Final boss speedrun time. Why was this necessary? Why did this happen? Again!
What kind of crack were they smoking?
And where can I get some? The whole last season feels so chaotic and rushed, with plot lines popping up like a whack-a-mole machine, that by the time the final boss fight happens, you're not even shocked anymore. You're just tired. Seven Deadly Sins had potential. Real potential. But somewhere along the way, it forgot its own story, its own characters, and everything that made fans fall in love with it in the first place. Dragon's Judgment isn't just a bad finale. It's a perfect representation of the entire show's downfall. A finale that's messy, nonsensical, rushed, and somehow still manages to ignore half the cast in its final moments. It's the end result of years of declining quality, terrible decisions, and a studio that clearly wanted this nightmare to be over just as badly as we did. And for me, that's the saddest part. Seven Deadly Sins didn't have to turn out this way. This could have been a classic, one of the all-timers. Instead, it's a monument to wasted potential. A case study in how to fumble a franchise so hard it becomes a meme. But hey, At least now we can all look back, shake our heads, and ask the same question. What the hell happened? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, I've now got a Patreon linked on my profile. Until next time.